What's up, upstanders? Dr. O here, and today I want to talk about the reasons why Stephen A. Smith can and cannot be president now of the United States. Now, to be clear, as I've mentioned before, I don't watch Stephen A. Smith. I don't even watch him on ESPN anymore. I find the motives that he has and what he's doing to be very problematic. And as I've said many times, I feel like he can be dangerous. But, ABC owns ESPN, and so, it makes sense that you're going to see him on the Sunday shows and some of these other networks as well, talking about him as a viable candidate and all of this other type of stuff. So this is where my mindset comes. I haven't listened to his podcast. I haven't even done a post on him in a while. But let me talk about the reasons why I feel like he can be president first off and foremost. The reasons how and he could be president is if we continue down this spiral of not expecting our leaders to have any skills or qualifications. That's who Trump is. That's who his whole cabinet is. That's who they are. And as Stephen A. Smith said himself, talking about people like Pete Hegseth as well, he is the negative idea of what Republicans have as a DEI hire, because we know that the terminology is nonsense within itself. But if you're talking about somebody who's unqualified and got their position because of how they looked or their and their connections, then that's basically what Pete Hegseth is. And Stephen A. Smith called that out and the like. But if we continue down that spiral, when you look at a president like Donald Trump, a man who has no real intelligence of history, you look at all of these press conferences, he always is surrounded by his cabinet so he can have them speak for him. Hey, Pam Bondi, which one was that? Miller, which one was that? As you saw with the press conference with Bukele, he was a man who didn't have the intellect to be president coming in, and he has not changed that in any way, shape, or form now. He's a skilled politician. Obviously, you have to be a skilled politician to be able to become president in fair elections. You got to appeal to people, even if everything you're saying is a lie. Stephen A. Smith could master that as well. He's very sharp in what he says, and he comes off as somebody who has that kind of bombast that people liked about Donald Trump. So if people are looking for that, if the intellectual decline of the United States clearly continues to fall. Clearly, someone like Stephen A. Smith is intellectually skillful as it relates to basketball and sports in general. He isn't. That's his field of expertise. But as I saw in one of the last posts I've actually saw about him, I saw him do. He talks about, well, if it's just about the debate, I can learn the skills, I can learn the issues, and if people just think a good debate performance is gonna be enough, hey, we saw what happened with Biden and Harris, which is gonna lead to part two shortly in this same video. That people say the debate destroyed Biden, despite his intellect, despite him knowing the law, despite him being able to talk about issues, whether you like his take on them or not, him being able to recite things, like a book, because he was there for some of the more prominent moments in history, in United States history over the last 50 years of his public service. So yeah, if we want to dumb down America, Stephen A. Smith can actually be the candidate for that. If we don't care about that in politics, I mean, look, we got Marjorie Taylor Greene, we got so many of these other guys, Lauren Burbert, like we got all these guys in there. Like it can happen. It can absolutely happen. Here's the reason why Stephen A. Smith can't be president. America has shown time and time again that we will accept the ignorance and buffoonery from white male elected officials, even some white female elected officials like the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, but won't really take that from a black person. And that's why I feel like he can't be president, because people, when it comes to, Herschel Walker, for example, when it comes to black people and incompetence, people will only go but so far. And I don't see people voting him in an office. And again, it's not that Stephen A. Smith is a fool. It's not that Stephen A. Smith is an idiot. It's not about that. I'm not into name calling. It's that he's not qualified. As he said on Karen Hunter's podcast, that he is not qualified to be president of the United States. And, and now the fact that he's over 35 years old and an American citizen, obviously that's enough. But if we haven't seen situations where people will really give black people who don't have strong knowledge and grasp of something, I'm sorry, for won't give black people who demonstrate certain levels of incompetence and even kind of just immaturity as relates to particular issues politically, I haven't seen people really vote for that at a large scale for black people. So they can have the Candace Owens of the world, but I can't see Candace Owens getting elected to office. We can have the Jason Whitlocks of the world, but I think if he ever ran for politics, I can't see him getting elected. Again, we talked about Herschel Walker. We could Diamond and Silk. Obviously it's only one who's alive now, but I'm saying like they take these guys to a certain space and then they dump them. And so at some point, Stephen A. Smith is also going to have to decide if he's actually going to run as a Democrat, which I believe he'll get slammed by the Democratic Party for doing. I can't see him taking out a Wes Moore or somebody like that. Or if he's going to run as a Republican. And once he runs as a Republican and comes out as a Republican, he's going to stop being the black friend to these Republicans. And they're going to actually see him as some form of competition. And I can't see them supporting him. If he runs as an independent, that could be interesting as well. But ultimately, I do not believe that America will vote. I believe that he could be a white male in this society and get over and get some votes and maybe win some primaries. I can't see it happening in the Democratic space with a black man who is not well equipped and knowledgeable enough on the issues, and can't do the Cliff's Notes version to try to get caught up. You look at somebody like a President Obama, whether you love him or hate him and his policies, you can't tell me that he wasn't qualified, that he wasn't skilled, that he wasn't somebody who's been involved in service work and doing the work for the people for decades, and he came from that background. I've heard about things that Stephen A. Smith has done for people behind the scenes, but in terms of a public service persona, that's not something that he has and is known for. And that's something that works really well on the Republican side of things, because I can't think of anything I've seen with many of these Republican candidates as it relates to the public service that they are a part of. So that's why I'm saying he may have to go over to the Republican side of things. But ultimately, for someone like him to be taken seriously as a candidate, and it really shows the decline of our intellectualism in America as relates to the political space. And if he is to have any type of progress in any way, shape, or form, it says a lot more about us than it actually does about him. So that's where I see it. What is your take? What are your thoughts? I'm ultimately on the can't side of things, because I don't believe that white America would actually vote for him in office, even though all of his qualifications, Trump has already shown that qualifications don't matter, and he's already dumbed down America enough. But I can't see that America would actually go for that with a black male who doesn't have a grasp on many of these issues. I mean, they didn't even want to give Tim Scott any run. So those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think. Holla. Peace.